Just before I get started on this, I just wanted to show you what I'm doing, because to get the center line of this, you can see where the old mold used to sit, but that wasn't perfect. Like, that was just, it didn't need to be exact. As long as the mold was pretty much somewhere in that vicinity, it would have worked. So I didn't spend too much time trying to get it perfect. But for this, where the tail light's going to be, has to be spot on. So what I'm doing here, I've just got this blue tape. I'm going to get my square, put my square on here and work out that line there where it stops all the way across. And then run this blue tape up as it is now. Put a line somewhere where I think it is, and then take this tape off, do the same on the other side, put the tape on, make another mark, and then between those two marks, it'll be spot on where it is in the center. That's as close as I can get it, like, given the fact that this is all made by hand. This could be ever so slightly, you know, this way, or you can only do things as good as you can when you're making things by hand. But actually, speaking of squares, this guy here came from a garage sale. I picked it up well, years ago now. It's even got the guy's name on it, so I don't know who JSW is, but someone had a go at my square, saying your square looks more like a round. Come on guys, stop picking on my tools. But it may be a small square, but geez, it's come in handy. Like, I picked it up, I don't even know what I paid for it. It wasn't much. For jobs like this, a little square like that, just, you don't realize how useful they are. It has had a pretty hard life, as you can see. Hence why he called it a round, not a square. It was a pretty good comment, actually, I must admit. So I've pretty much changed gears here for a sec. What I'm going to do is I'm going to cut the hole first, do a pre-cut into this bit of plastic here. I tend to use this stuff a lot. It's just like chopping board, it's HDPE. So let's give this a go and see if we can get it to work without making it too big. Whoops. Let's try that again. So that worked out better than planned. If I press on that, you can see it's in there, like it's not ever going to move. That's exactly what I wanted. I didn't want it loose. I can still press it out if I push hard enough, but getting it in there and getting it to stay there is perfect. I'm not going to leave it like that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put something behind it to support it, maybe a couple of dabs of silicone or something just before the upholstery goes over it. So if I ever do need to change this out, I can obviously pull the upholstery back and just pull it out, and it's not going to just rattle its way out over time. So that's pretty much what I need. For anyone who's interested, I would not recommend this stuff. I've tried this stuff many times to try and do permanent jobs, and it always comes unstuck. The stuff in this spray can is good for what I'm doing now, which is just temporary, just to throw it on and see what it looks like, or temporary to try and hold something in place while you actually glue it or screw it or whatever you're doing. But for permanent situations, this has never worked for me. I don't know if anyone else has had that same problem, but I've never had any success with this. So something that I would definitely not recommend is the stuff in the spray can. The brand itself is really good. I've had some good success with the actual brand of other things. Like if you buy this stuff in an actual tub, like a paint tin, and you put it on by hand, that stuff's good. But when it comes in this spray pack, it just doesn't seem to do the same effect. So just thought I'd mention that if you do want to ever glue anything down like this, don't use the stuff in the spray can if it's permanent. The main reason I wanted to just try and fit that then was just to try and see clearance issues, to see if I had any problems with that hoop that was up underneath. But as you can see, that looks sexy. I'm really happy with that. I'm not going to completely wrap this yet. I'm going to let the upholstery do that. This tail light idea has been in my head ever since I started this build. This is exactly what I wanted. I purchased this. It took me so long to try and find one exactly like this, that smoked look. And yeah, I'm really happy with how that's turned out. It just needs a little bit pushing out of one side, just like that. I'm going to manipulate it a little bit once I actually get this on, and then I'll put a couple of dabs of silicone in there to hold it in place, and that's all it'll need. It's not going to move. So what I've done here is just a quick little repair. There was a little bit of a crack that formed here underneath the clamp just from when I released this from the mold. It was the paint, like this is a 2-pack paint, and I think body filler had just lifted a little bit, and it was going to stop this seat pan from sitting flat. So I've done a bit of a repair on that. I'm not too worried about it being a little bit rough, like here, and there's a few little sections where there's a bit of paint that had chipped off and a bit of the body filler that's come out. The reason I'm not worried about it is because this is going to be completely wrapped in like an upholstery, and none of that's going to be seen. So it's just the overall shape is what I'm worried about. So this, only reason I repaired that, that feels still a little bit soft, and this has been overnight drying. Maybe my silicone is old and out of date. Might have to check that. I'll have a look when I pull it apart. But anyway, so that's done. I just need to take the clamp off, check that, make sure it's not you know, still wet, because it shouldn't be, and if it is, then I'll just repeat that process with some new silicone just to keep that flat. So then I'm going to move on to this guy here. I pretty much sat this flat on this and noticed that it sits fairly flush across the top. Given the fact that I'm going to be putting material on this and there's going to be material wrapped around the back of this, I want this to sit under this edge. It's going to look really silly if it sits above it, so I want it to sit just below. And then once it gets upholstered, then it'll sit pretty much flush, I guess, hopefully. So I'm going to take a little bit more material out of this. I'm going to take this to the upholstery guy. So I'm going to chat with the upholstery guy and see how we're going to go about doing this. I may need to still take more out of this, and also how we're going to secure this to that. I think there's some plugs you can get, or locators, or something that I can buy that'll make life a little bit easier. Otherwise I can manufacture something myself. So I've just put this back on the bike and I hit that with a grinder. It seems as though that silicone didn't dry. It's still a little bit wet, and I don't think it's going to dry. It's been overnight. It should have well and truly gone hard by now. Well, not hard, but at least set. So that I'm going to grind out completely, get rid of all that silicone, and pretty much put another layer of bog or body filler over it just to get it perfectly flat. And then the seat pan, how I'm going to mount it, I've just decided that the front lip here, because this has got a bit of flex to it, this actual fiberglass, what I'm going to do is I'll get the seat pan so I can show you. So what I'm going to do is weld just a tab on the underside of this, which will pretty much hook underneath the fuel tank there once that's pretty much bolted down. And on the back side, I'm going to drill a hole all the way through this into the actual fiberglass, and then I'll put a bolt through. But on the underside of the frame, I'm going to put a piece of flat bar and weld it in so that then that bolt will go all the way through this, the fiberglass, and the actual frame, and that'll hold it in place. Then have like a split pin or an R-clip on the underside, so it's just one movement from underneath, which can take this off. So hopefully once this comes off, I'll have the glove compartment in there, which I can store a few little bits and pieces when I'm riding, and then replace it nice and easy just from one little tiny movement underneath, which is going to be an R-clip. So that's the plan, and as all of my plans, they're always subject to change, just depending on what happens along the way. An R-clip is similar to this. This is not an R-clip, this is just something that so I can show you what I was talking about in case you don't know. This fits in here quite nicely. It is a little bit tight, especially when the material or vinyl goes on it, so I may have to do a little bit of a modification there. But for now, I'm happy with that. That's sitting in place, it's nice and even. So, and it holds it, locates it, the actual bolt that goes through here, or the linch pin, will be perfect. It'll just keep everything down. So that is the seat pan completed. Obviously I still need to put foam and everything on this, but I do want to chat with the upholstery guy before I do any of that, just to make sure it's all going to work, and that's pretty much it.